Welcome back to this latest episode of Japan's top business interviews. I'm your host, Dr. Greg Story, President, Dale Carnegie Tokyo Training. My special guest today is Alexis Perroton, who is the Japan CEO of Piaget. And we are in the Piaget main boutique in the Ginza.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you very much for hosting. Alexis, it's great to have you with me today. You know, Piaget is a fabulous brand and fabulous brand name. And give us a little bit of background. You know, how is it that you're in Japan running Piaget, and what's been a little bit of the background in your career, and then we'll pick up what's been happening in Japan.
Sure. It's quite a long story, so I'll try to make it short. But it started, I'm from Switzerland, so I was born in Geneva, same as Piaget. It's also a brand that's coming from Geneva. And then after I graduated from a university, I joined a watch brand that's quite famous, TAG Heuer. And work a couple of months there. And after, I wanted to work abroad. So I put some pressure on my boss saying I want to move abroad. And the choice was Japan. But it was not a choice, actually. It was Japan.
Japan or nothing.
Or nothing,
Japan
exactly.
or stay here.
Or stay in Switzerland.
Yeah.
And I knew nothing about Japan. I had no affinity with Japan. I had really no clue. I was more thinking about going to the US. But it was Japan. I said, okay, Japan is one of the biggest countries for luxury. So I said, why not try Japan? So I moved after a few months to Japan. And it was quite tough. I mean, when you arrive in Japan, I was 24 years old. Couldn't speak, couldn't talk, couldn't read, nothing. Quite tough, and was not prepared at all to arrive in Japan. So the culture shock was quite big. In my company, there was only a few people speaking English, so I was quite isolated. So after a few weeks, I was thinking to give up and to go back to Switzerland. Because it was really tough. And I said, okay, no, I don't want to give up. So I pushed myself. I wanted to succeed. So I learned Japanese because that was the only way I knew I could succeed. So I learned Japanese and stayed 4 years at TAG Heuer. At the end, everything went well. I met my wife a few years after. And then
Big bonus right there.
Exactly. And a big jump in my Japanese also, language skill. And then being very comfortable in Japan, I said, okay, I want to stay in Japan, but I want to do something else. So at that time, I moved to the Richemont group. Where I joined the finance team. So I was in operation in TAG Heuer, then went to finance in Richemont, it's called the finance planning analysis department. And I was working for watch brands and after working for Cartier, but as a Richemont employee for a few years. And then because I was quite close with the Cartier people, the head of Cartier at that time asked me to join Cartier directly in the marketing. So you might wonder from finance to marketing, I said, but finance, the subsidiary has quite a wide scope, and I was mostly working with the marketing team, doing analysis, dashboards for them on product performance. So I already had one foot in the marketing. So I joined at that time the jewelry team. So I was the head of the jewelry for Cartier in Japan. It was at the time where Cartier was coming out of a difficult period, and really there was a lot of optimism about Cartier, a lot of freedom about what we could do locally. There was a new management team, so it was amazing years we had during those 4 years. Where I really enjoy a lot. And of course, I was planning to stay in Japan. We had our first daughter was born in Japan, and so, okay, let's buy an apartment. And it's always when you plan something like that something else is coming. And then they came and said, okay, why don't you want to move? And why do you want to move, sorry? And why don't you come to head office? And I said at that time, if I want to move inside Cartier, I think the head office is the best way to progress in a career. Because when you only work locally, your network is quite small. So I thought, okay, head office might be a very good step, knowing that I wanted to go back to another country.
Head office for Cartier would be what, Paris?
Or? There are two. There are one in Paris, one in Geneva.
Okay.
And it was the one in Geneva that I was offered back home.
Okay.
So it was a very good choice because it allowed me to be in the head office, so having in contact with all the ExCo members of Cartier. But also my job was to look after Asia countries and coordinate all the commercial activities. So it allowed me also to know all the people in Asia. So I spent 3 years there, and it was at the time when China was being developed. So it was very interesting to be part of the brand at that time to understand how the market share was developing, how we were taking business in China, and how we're developing the maison. So it was very, very interesting time. And because I had all those network done from my time in the head office, at one time, the head of Singapore, who was overlooking Southeast Asia, asked me, are you interested to work with me? And I always remember because he offered me that on the top of Marina Bay Sands, which is the huge hotel in Singapore. So it was not a proposal for wedding, but it was a proposal for work. But it was a very important one because it allowed me to go back to Asia. So we moved with my family to Singapore, and I was overlooking the Markham for all Southeast Asia. So from Australia.
It's a huge market then, yeah.
Very interesting market. There were 12 countries, but every country with a different progression into luxury. Some were very mature, like Singapore. Some were at the beginning. You had Vietnam also. Some were more Anglo-Saxon, like Australia. Some were Indonesia was very strong culturally. So a lot of different things, which was very, very interesting. And also at that time, we were a small team, but the team was built around the same time. So we were very close to each other. And we had also 3 years, very, very nice. And I really enjoyed my time when I was in Singapore. And again, here, when you start thinking, okay, I'm going to stay, that's where I was contacted by someone I had contact with when I was at the head office of Cartier, who is the head of North Asia. So I was in Southeast Asia. Of course, you had North Asia is the biggest one. So I was asked to move to North Asia, to Hong Kong. To be this time in charge of Hong Kong and Macau in terms of Markham. And I thought Singapore is very good. There's still a lot of things to do, but Hong Kong was the biggest market at that time. So I thought it was a good challenge.
What year would that be we're talking about?
2015.
2015. So Hong Kong's still rocketing along.
Yes, Hong Kong and Macau. At that time, China, of course, was coming up very quite quickly, but Hong Kong was still big, very for many of the luxury brands. So I thought about going there, and I thought, okay, marketing and communication-wise, I might not learn a lot of things, but because of the size, because of the complexity also, because of the relationship with the head office, I will learn that part if I go to Hong Kong. So I decided to move. And it was also a good timing in Hong Kong because the umbrella demonstration just stopped. And it was before COVID and all other things. So it was kind of a peaceful time where the business was growing again. And because it was the biggest subsidiary, there was a lot of resources, a lot of pressure also, but resources also were there. So we were able to do a lot of things. So it also was very interesting. And after 2 years and a half, at that time, one of my ex-colleagues, when I was in Cartier head office, just moved to Piaget to be the CEO at that time, Shabi Nouri. And I met her once in Hong Kong, and we discussed, and we thought, okay, maybe I could bring something to Piaget. And I could help because she was rebuilding the brand at that time with a lot of changes in terms of strategy, in terms of people. And so we said, yeah, I could be a good fit, and then we can work together. So we decided on me joining Piaget, but at that time, the location was not finalized. So we moved from South Korea, after maybe it would be Singapore, then it changed again, and then finally it was Japan.
Oh, okay. So it could have been the career of Singapore.
Exactly.
Yeah, wow.
So it was not a strong will from me and my family to go to Japan. My son was born in Singapore, so we had decided to stay for a while, but we said, okay, Japan was a good choice to go back. So we went back to Japan, and it was 8 years ago. And during those 8 years, amazing years, a lot of success, some failures, but very a great team, and I really enjoyed every moment since I joined Piaget.
So for you, how many years in total in Japan now?
If you cumulate everything, it's going to be 18 years, 10 plus 8. So, but I'm happy.
Considerable experience.
It's good, but I'm happy that in the middle I moved away for 8 years because I think you can build your career only in Japan. That's fine. A lot of people are doing. To see also what's happening outside, I think it brings also a good view. And a better understanding, especially with head offices, because it's important that the connection with head offices is strong.
So you've had, as you say, good experience in Japan, 18 years, but also outside.
Yeah.
So you've led teams in many different countries and different circumstances, across different markets. So when you look back and you think about Japan, what did you find worked well to engage teams to follow you?
But I think there are some points that are common wherever you are, whether it's in Japan or whether in other countries. And that's really, for me, the values I have in the way I manage people. And what is the most important for me is the respect, the transparency. And one expression I like is walk the talk. And I think this works in all the countries I've worked because people, when they see that you respect those things, transparency, walk the talk, they follow you. And I think in Japan, it's the same thing. As long as you have this, it's already a good way to have people following you. After engagement in Japan, it's true. It's always a big question because when you do surveys, and we do employee survey every 2 years, we have customer. Every time a customer comes to a boutique, he has to digitally answer a survey, and engagement is always lower. is lower than in other countries, whether it's consumer, whether it's staff. But it doesn't mean it's bad. I think it's important that when we look at those surveys, there's always this image of on one survey, the engagement survey we do of a boat. And you have the people who are engaged are in front of the boat rowing, people who are disengaged at the back of the boat but rowing the other way. And then you have the people in the middle. And when you compare country to country, Japan, the biggest proportion is in the middle. So not taking side. But when you look at the details, you have people taking side. And that's where you get the message. And I think it's important to read this message. Also, an engagement survey is not only about rating, it's about comments. And I think you learn a lot about comments. And for me, that's the most important thing. We always say in Japan, people don't give feedback or are not engaged. I don't think it's true. They are. But you have to give them the opportunity, and you have to give them the right time and the right platform to do it. And I always believe that being patient and giving time for people to decide how they want to give you the feedback is important, because they will give you feedback. And I think that's what I've learned in Japan. At the beginning, when we're doing big presentation, we were expecting people, well, yeah, it's great. And nobody's moving, everybody's watching you like this. And say, yeah, but after you go, you talk one-to-one, that's where you get the feedback. There's a lot of ways to get feedback in Japan, formal, informal also. You've met my boutique manager. I go golfing with him. It's also a way I can get feedback. I go running with other team members. That's where you get feedback, and that's where you get engagement from people.
You know, I've heard for the luxury industry in Japan that when they do post-purchase surveys and they get the results back and then they compare it with other countries, Japan looks really bad. Like, we're doing a terrible job in Japan and the customers are not happy, to the point that they found, I think the number I was told, was they have to add like 130% to the Japanese scores so they can have some degree of parity to actually compare Japan equally across other cultures, because the Japanese score is so tough, or they're so conservative in their scoring. Is that your experience?
I would say that for me, I don't compare with other countries. And I think that's what I've been telling my HQ. Trying to compare is not the right way, because it's different. People culturally judge differently. When I was in Hong Kong, we had this survey, and it was very good for some boutiques. So I went to ask, say, why it's so good? And because they were telling me at the end, the client, you give me a 10, huh? You give me a 10. And they were pushing that, and they don't care. They're just
fixing the survey result.
And in Japan, when you read, and it's true, the rating we rate on 10, and basically, 1 point, 2 points. So 10, 15, 20%, I would say, is the gap. But when you read the comments, I'm always amazed by the comments they give the clients. Because the question they have to answer is, would you recommend? And that's the main question that gives the rating. And then people say out of 10, they put 5. And the comment is, I love the brand. I don't want my friends to own it. Only me. That's why I give you this rating.
That's why I give you a 5.
And that's always funny.
That's tough on the numbers, isn't it?
Exactly. But at the end, you have to go into details, see, and when we have really a bad rating, we contact again the clients to understand. And often it's answers like that. It's like, no, it was perfect.
As long as headquarters understands that, that's helpful.
That's the key point.
They look at the numbers and go, what is Alexis doing in Japan? Look at these horrible numbers, And we find ourselves too, because we do Net Promoter Score, Voice of Customer Score. And we found that originally we took because we're centralized out of New York in the States, so the whole world, Dale Carnegie world, 200 franchises, 100 countries, all do the same surveys, right? And then we found that we hadn't actually paid enough attention to how we translated the questions from English. So in English, they tend to be quite direct, and it's okay because English speakers tend to be okay with that.
Yep.
But we found that we had to have a bit more nuance in the translation for Japanese to not be so confronted by, I recommend this to people, and if they don't like it, they're going to be upset with me, or it's a very too direct, too hard. And so we had to just improve the translation a bit, and that did help the numbers. And the same with the staff too. Same thing with the staff with the very direct question, and it's like, I'm not recommending someone to join my company, or they must hate the company. No, they wonder, if I introduce my relative or my friend and they don't like the company, I'll be responsible. If I introduce my friend or relative and the company doesn't like them, I'll be responsible. So I'm not recommending.
That's totally true. And we had exactly this issue with the employee survey. With the client, the questions are a little more simpler, so it's easier. But with the staff, it's exactly what happened. That's why we had sessions where we go through the questions with them. And that's why we realize they don't understand the question the same way that it was initially drafted. That's totally true.
I found, the translation was always a big blockage to getting the people fully understand what we're trying to get at here. But when you ask people, the very low engagement score, you say, well, do the people work hard? Oh, yeah, they work hard. They work long hours too. They work very hard. Oh, are they passionate about the company? Yeah. They're really passionate. They're proud. Oh, and then you've got the scores, It looks like this is a hellhole, some terrible black company to work here or something. You look at the numbers. So, I think that's not a good indicator for Japanese stuff. And also, like you said, 10, right? 5, boom. If it's 5, 3.
But that's why it's important to have the discussion, to read the comments. And when we did the employee survey, we did after 2 or 3 sessions with each topic that was rating the worst. And then we take a sample of the teams and we take one morning and we discuss. Why do you think like this? And then we come up with what are the main reasons why it was rated like that and what actions we can do. And then also it shows them that there is action, because often you do an employee survey. Often it's, okay, the main complaint is I don't get enough salary. So, okay, there's nothing we can do about it. Bye-bye. But here we said, okay, let's look at this. What are the actions we can do? Then we put it together. And then 2 years after, we do again. So they see that there is a continuity and it's not just for the sake of HQ as asked to do it. It's really with actions.
Yeah, I have to say, one of the most painful experiences of my leadership life is having to fit people into a bell curve of assessment across different offices when I was in a previous company. And literally, headquarters at that time was regional headquarters, Hong Kong. You go to Hong Kong, you're sitting in this meeting room, and they've got, the whole bell curve of teams, and you have to get rid of these people down here because they're not fitting into the bell curve, And it's like, are you nuts? Like, what? But this is the mentality was like that, bell curve, bottom 10%.
Every year.
It's like, this is Japan, it's different, Didn't fly. That didn't fly at all. And I really hated that process. I thought it was a really, for Asia anyway, particularly, I thought it was a pretty stupid process and not very well thought through. But anyway, another podcast on my complaints about that company. But I found, the engagement scores became part of that because they'd say, well, look at your engagement scores in Japan. Obviously, these people are not committed. They're not alive to the business. You got to cut them because they're obviously not in the flow here. Like, no, that's not what it's saying. So anyway, that was a particular time and place, I guess. What about getting ideas from people? Because, someone with your background, your pedigree, you've seen different markets, you've seen different aspects of the business, different regions. So you bring a lot of ideas, you bring a lot of drive, a lot of insight to the job as a president. But you're only one man. And often, when we're at the top, we're not spending time on the counter talking to clients. We're not in the trenches like the staff are, who are probably seeing things and observing things that maybe we're just too high. So often they've got ideas and they've got insights and they've got inspiration about things too. How do we get that out? What have you found works well to get bottom up idea creation and innovation?
First, I would a little disagree with your first point.
Please go ahead.
I'm in a luxury business and it's about emotion and clients. I spend time on the floor. I spend time talking to clients.
Oh, very good.
And it's important. For me, I need to have this. That's why also I like this job is you can meet people from very different background. I had trips with people in Europe for events. I have dinner with clients.
So you go with them?
I go with the clients.
Take them with them too?
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
I have dinners here with clients. We have events from morning to evening. I'm on the floor. And I think that's important. It shows also to the teams that you are with them and then they can talk to you. And I think that's the first part of the answer is you know what you're talking about and you've been with them on the trenches.
And you speak Japanese too,
yes.
So you can talk to Japanese clients directly as opposed to through an interpreter, which puts a bit of a barrier, not a big barrier, but it's still a barrier, isn't it?
It does, because I can have one-to-one dinner. I have one-to-one dinner or lunches with my clients. And that's, for me, a one of the best part of the job. It's really have this relationship. People have their own business, their own story. You can talk about a lot of things, and that's really amazing. So I would say that's the first part is people, your staff, they know they can talk to you. They know you understand their life, and I think that's important. Then after, as I said before, is not everybody reacts to the same stimuli. Some people will react when you do a brainstorming, they will stay quiet and say, okay, if other people can talk, I don't need to talk, that's fine. And some talk. And then you have other opportunities, whether on one-to-one, when you can throw ideas, have them to think about, give them the right time, the right frame to come back. And that's where you get the feedback. And I think one of the best sources I had of ideas was having dinner, lunch with the teams, where it was more on a smaller team. It's true, sometimes they still have a reluctancy to talk in front of big groups, some people. But when you go 2-3 people, I had breakfast. I haven't done it this year, but last year I had breakfast with all the retail team, but by group of 4 or 5. So a breakfast together, and they can ask whatever question they want. We can discuss about whatever topic. And it's unstructured in a way, but you hear sometimes the same comment, the same thing. And then you can throw back ideas and, okay, this seems to be a topic. And then going back to the office, discussing with the people, and then some people will take the lead on it. And I would say there's not a one source. It's really given a lot of opportunities. You have to have your ear open, and that's where you will hear the feedback. But there's just one comment that you said about the different countries, because it's a comment I heard when I was in Hong Kong. They were comparing Hong Kong and Japan, and they were saying that if you do one project in Japan, and the project is 100, Japanese will work and prepare it up to 90, but prepare it, check, double check, think about everything. And then the last 10 is the execution. It's perfect, it's flawless. But you will spend 90% on the preparation. In Hong Kong, they will stop at 50. Then they will go. And then if there is a mistake, they will change.
Work it out on the way through.
Exactly. Yeah. But they will have spent almost half of the time.
And Australia would be 10% on the preparation and 90% will work it out on the way through.
Different.
Yeah, different. But that's true. I mean, Japan's a very cautious, careful society around brand and image and being correct. No errors, no defects. Well planned, well executed, and so they invest the time. So it is flawless, and which is better. I don't know. They're both good. I mean, sometimes that spontaneity is a good thing. That flexibility is a good thing. It depends. In terms of, as you said, getting the ideas out, having the breakfast, having the lunches, having the small groups, etc. All great. What about taking the ideas inside and applying them? Because I'm sure you've had this experience. I've had this experience on different companies. You go away for an offsite and you paper every single square inch of the entire room with these big papers with all their ideas written on this fantastic session. Everyone's pumped up, and then nothing. Just absolutely nothing happens with that afterwards. It's so deflating. It's like you feel betrayed. So, the staff too, if they're giving ideas, if they're giving their time, their insight and their thoughts to you, they're expecting, well, something's going to change. So how do you bridge that between collecting the ideas or then actual changing things to reflect the input?
But basically, from my experience, I take the lead. I take the lead and build the frame. And it's, as you said, we had this experience where you wall full of post-it, everything, everybody great. And then who does what is like, oh, okay, we don't know, and nothing is moving. So I do it. I give him the frame. I give the frame. This is what I want you to work on. This is the timing. This is what I'm expecting. Because they have been part of the brainstorming. So they're really engaged into that. So they know why we're doing that. And they know what we talked about. So it's not out of the blue. So they know already this part. So what they're expecting is the frame. And you give them a frame about how to move forward. And that's how, for me, it worked. Then when they take it, it goes very fast. But you need the first. And I know sometimes it's frustrating because you expect people, why they don't do it? I have senior people, why they don't take it, why they don't do it. And rather than complaining, it's okay, I give you the frame. We'll do it together. I give you the frame, and then you go.
And I guess one part of that too is the communication, in terms of letting people know, I heard you, and here's what we're doing. And it may be you had a particular boutique breakfast with some people, and then you come up with some ideas, but another boutique doesn't know about that breakfast detail, what happened. But they have to hear about it somehow. So what's your mechanism of communicating those sorts of things across the whole organization?
I think it's more to go there and visit. The difficulties with boutiques is people are on the floor. They're not behind a computer every day.
That's right, yeah.
So
you're standing all day.
Exactly. So sending emails, they don't have time. They don't have time to read. So you have to go there. You have to take time, visit, explain. And sometimes we do bigger session. Also, it's empowered the boutique managers. This we have also session with them for them to give the feedback. And sometimes they don't. And sometimes we realize they haven't given the feedback to their teams. So we have to go again and re-explain. But it's because of most of the staff in my team, 3/4 of the staff are in boutiques. So it's not people you just send a PowerPoint and read it and like that. So
here's my email.
Yeah, exactly.
Everyone take note.
You haven't read my email? Why not? I say, yeah, but I'm on the floor every day. I have clients.
I'm trying to read your email, yeah. Good point. And I guess there's also an element too about what have we found works well to empower people? Because Japan's very hierarchical.
Yeah.
And often, if you call for, as you said, you're having a discussion or ideas or whatever, they're all sitting there looking around going, well, okay, so-and-so joined the company before I did, so-and-so's older than me, so-and-so's, more senior position or whatever. And they're adjusting, letting them talk first so they don't say anything. And but actually what you want are people to be active one by one and have some feeling of empowerment to do things. So what have we found works well to empower Japanese teams particularly?
What I do is every week we have a meeting which is only about feedback, meaning what everyone has done and what everyone is working on. And then everyone has to talk one after the other.
How big a team are we talking about here?
I don't have a big team. Office is only 13 people, 14 people. So it allows...
You can do it. It's scalable.
Yes, exactly. It's scalable. Again, most of the people are in the boutiques.
Boutiques, okay.
So it allows this kind of flexibility. And I know most of because I've been here 8 years also, I know most of them, they know me. So they know that they can speak freely and it's quite without any fear that they might have if it was someone new.
And that's a good point because, Japanese can be hesitant to put their idea forward in case people think they're stupid or they don't like the idea or they might be embarrassed or, I had a boss once who, ex-military, he'd stand in front of the whiteboard with a pen, say, okay, give me some ideas. Greg, stupid idea. Next. We tried that, didn't work. Next. I mean, after 2 minutes of this, everyone's looking at their shoes.
No one is talking.
No eye contact. Everyone's looking at their shoes, Killed everybody. That's not the way to do it, obviously. Yeah. If you want to be successful as a leader, do the Leadership Training for Managers course. All companies need people who can both manage and lead. Leading people screams out for real skills in communication, dealing with all different types of people, being excellent at innovation, planning, delegation, handling mistakes, doing performance reviews really well, and inspiring and motivating the team. Do the Leadership Training for Managers course now in either Japanese or English. Leading is easy. Getting people to follow is the hard part. That is a great quote from Yogi Berra. Surprisingly, despite the complexities of leading here in Japan, everyone has to work it out by themselves. Foreign leaders want practical, applicable, expert advice. This is now available for the first time in history. Grab your copy of Japan Leadership Mastery on Amazon today and avoid the mystery, trial and error, especially the errors. How did you go about creating that sense that they could speak up and they wouldn't be criticized or judged or humiliated or whatever? How did you approach that to make them feel comfortable, encourage them to actually get involved?
I think, again, for me, I go back to a one-to-one. I think it's important when, again, I have a small team, so it allows me to do that. But to be interested in what they are doing also. So they see, okay, the boss is not just on the top. When you're a foreigner in Japan, sometimes people, they say, okay, the guy is here for 3 years. Then after 3 years, he's gone. Why should I care? I'm going to say yes, yes, yes. And then there's the next one who's going to do something else. I've been told like that by a staff once. They say, anyway, you're gone in 3 years. Bye-bye. Yeah. So it's to feel...
Here you are, 8 years later.
Yeah, I'm still here.
I'm still here. That didn't work. I'm still here. Come on.
You don't get rid of me.
You don't get rid of me that easily.
So it's really also to be interested in what they are doing. when I know there is a project that is a little complicated and one staff has been allocated this project, it's also asking, okay, where are you? What's the difficulties? Sometimes they also have a direct link with the head office, even. And so head office give them project. And I know the project is tough, so I'm going, okay, what's the state? How are you? Is any problem, any difficulties? So they understand that I'm not just on the top and not caring. I think it's important to feel that I can be reachable. And I think that's how you gain that trust. And then after they can give, I don't say that it's perfect and everybody is very confident. No, there's still people who are maybe they have fear that saying something, they might look, still, it's not zero, but at least it's to a point where if they want to say, and if they have to say something, they will do it.
Very good. And so, we talked before about trust, and you think back, you actually started your career in Japan. So this is I think every country is the same in the sense of trust is very important, but somehow Japan, it seems to be more important. I don't know. I can't quite scientifically prove that, but my feeling is that here it's even more important. So how did you go about, what have you found actually works well to gain trust from staff?
I think, and as you said, I think in Japan, they really, because they still, I believe, when they're in the company, they really live in the company. They really have this passion. I think for luxury, it's true for a lot of people. It's a very specific segment, but they have a lot of passion when they do. I have people working in my company. I've been here for 15, 20 years in the same company, the same job, because they say, no, I'm here. I love the brand. I want to continue. So you have this passion. So how to gain the trust from me? It's really to show them that we are on the same team and that there's no privilege because I'm foreigner, because I'm the boss. No. I'm here also to work for the same goal as you are. And I think it's important that they show that, again, being on the floor helped me to crack quickly this point of the trust. Saying that, again, you're a foreigner, you send from another country, you arrive, why should I trust you? But to be on the floor with them, when there is an event, I pack things in the evening with them. It's really, they say, okay, the guy next to me is the CEO, he's packing the things as I do. Okay, I can rely to that, and that's how you gain the trust.
I'm the president, I'm heading to home now.
I go home, it's 5 o'clock.
Get the stuff cleaned up, I'll see you guys tomorrow.
Exactly.
They're actually roll the sleeves up and get
I'm with them. We are all in the same boat, and that's how you get the trust.
And did you, just thinking back, you'd been in Japan before, so you're not a stranger to Japan and Japanese ways, and your wife's Japanese, of course. But when you came back to take on the role here in Piaget, did you sort of go into the stores right from the start? Like, you arrive and then I'm here, and then not next day, but in a very short space of time, you're actually on the counter in a boutique working with people or at a show or something to try and demonstrate, I'm here with you. I'm not some guy who's remote doing it all by, control from headquarters. I understand your life. I'm going to be standing up all day just like you are. I'm going to be talking to clients just like you are. I'm going to here to help you. Did you have that strategy, or did it it's always been like that, or did it evolve? And where did that come from?
But I would say I didn't do it at the beginning, because also it's important that if I go on the floor, I'm not a burden for the teams. So if I go, it was my first time in Piaget, so I didn't know the brand.
Okay.
I didn't know anything. So coming to a boutique and saying, I can't even explain the product, I would look like a fool, and the staff would, okay, who's this guy who knows everything? We think he knows everything. No, the people in the boutique, they know much more than me in how to treat clients. So I have to learn from them. So I've always liked to be on the floor. I always like to be in shops, in department store. I was in marketing before, so you always go to see product, you go to see competition. It's always I love to be on the floor. When I'm in the office and I say, okay, I'm bored, okay, I go out. I go to a boutique and visit. So I think naturally I like to do it, but I didn't have this plan of going and then the second day I'm in the boutique and I talk to clients.
Right.
I didn't want to make a fool out of myself. So I learned first, and then I knew I could go.
I guess, you've got probably a very large product range as well, and a complex product range, because it's across a number of items, isn't it?
Yeah, true.
It's not just one thing. So learning the product, huge job right there, but well done. And what other things did you find worked well to build the trust with teams?
Be interested in also their life, also outside of work, not being intrusive, of course. but they all have their own issue at home. Often Japanese say, okay, it's separate, but it impacts also their lives. For once, I was going to a trip with one of my staff. We arrived in the location, and the staff lost his father the same day.
Oh.
So we had to organize everything. I said, no worry, we organize everything, you fly back, etc., etc. So it's also to show that you have empathy. I think empathy is also important. Again, the trust is based on two things. I think the personal thing, but also what you're going to do for them. And I think the walk the talk is for me very important. That's the main thing, how you gain trust from people. Is saying, okay, we're going to do like this, like this, like that. Of course, it's not always perfect. It's not always work like that. But at least what you said is what you're going to do. And I think that's where, for me, the trust comes from. And I expect the same thing from my bosses also, is really do what you say what you do.
And I guess, you've got to manage running the organization, multiple boutiques, multiple people. You've got head office, you've got a lot of things going on in the head office yourself. And so how do you carve out the time to be able to spend time with the team? Because, I look at my schedule, it's a bit of a nightmare. And just this torrent of emails all the time and meetings all the time, it just sucks up all the air. So what magical method have you found to actually be able to get out of the office and get into the boutiques and spend time with the team?
You have to block it. You have to block it from the start. For instance, a lot of our events are on weekend. So I work on weekend. I can spend...
And this would be what, a show or...
Yes, in the fairs in department store, or events here. I can have sometimes November, December, I can spend 1 month without weekend, meaning on the weekends I'm at the event, I'm not at home. So that's a way, but that's not a very healthy way long term, because meaning you work 7 days a week. But the other way I found is you block it. Every month I block certain time, and my assistant know that she cannot touch them. And that allows me to go to the boutiques. Because if you start by saying, maybe I will go, I will see. No, you will, as you said, it will fill up and then...
Schedule's killed, right?
Exactly. So you have to block your time from the beginning. That's the best way. And I start early in the morning, which allows me to have a lot of
When
things
you say early in the morning, how early are we talking?
8:30.
Okay. For an Australian, that's not counted as
okay,
early.
okay. That's the Swiss is normal. 8:30 is normal.
When I used to work in Brisbane, every Monday morning we had our department meeting 7 a.m.
Okay, that's early.
That's early.
That's early.
So when you say early, I go, how early? Okay. But still relatively early.
Yeah, it's true.
Relatively early.
And I finish generally at 7 or 8 in the evening.
So it's a long day.
It's a long day, but as you say, how do I manage my day? Also, it's the day, most of the day is for Japan. Then from 4 o'clock, 4-ish in the afternoon, it's for HQ. So you have basically 2 days in the same day. But I mean, I've been doing that a long time. And I think most of the people in Japan are like that. You have 2 time zones you have to work with.
In terms of thinking about if someone talked to you and said, "Hey, listen, I'm being sent to Japan by my company, and I'm going to be running the organization, but I don't know anything about Japan. I don't have any experience there. You've been there for all these years, 18 years. What advice would you give someone who's being sent to Japan for the first time to run the organization?"
First, I think read about Japan a little, because when I came first, I didn't do that, and it killed me the first weeks or the first months. Be prepared a little about learning some books, learning some Japanese. And I don't think learning Japanese itself is a good way, because to learn Japanese will take years. If you're only here in Japan for a couple of years, there's no point. It's just too time consuming. I think learning a little about Japan. Then I would say be curious. Curiosity is the best thing that you can have, because when you arrive and you already have fixed ideas, that's not going to work. You have to be very open-minded about what's going to happen. Let you drive by what's happening. I think the first, and I had a friend who arrived in Japan recently, and he had like 3 or 6 months of immersion before taking over his job.
Oh, really?
So that's a luxury that a lot
That's
of
a
companies
really good
don't
luxury
have.
to have, isn't it?
But to do that is the best way. Of course, it's a very long period, but at the beginning is to really swallow is not the right expression, but to like a sponge, to get all what's happening around, because like this you will see what's happening. Because the people often arrive in Japan, if you don't speak Japanese, Japan is like this, like this, like that, because I read it. So we go like this, like this, like that. No, it's not black or white. It's always changing. So it's a mix of different things. But curiosity for me is the main one. To be curious and really to have your ear open about what's happening.
I used to be a diplomat in the Australian Diplomatic Corps there, and it used to be that people would, for Japan, they'd be sent up here for 2 years of language study, and then they'd get their posting. And that was because they needed to function at a high level in Japanese in country, but they invested the time. These days, I think they do a year in Australia first, and then strong immersion, and they come up for a year, and then they start their job. So there was always that investment in that particular field. But as you say, your time here might be 3 years. It's very hard to master Japanese in 3 years. And just as you've mastered it, you're on the plane out of town, you can't use it anymore. Maybe a Japanese restaurant somewhere in New York might be good. In terms of, thinking back to when you first came here at age 24, now I know it was the very start of your career anyway, but what were some things that you think back that you were surprised by when you first got here, which probably today would still surprise people? You know, you're coming in at a very low level in the sense of a first job, and they're coming into as the boss, but there are still things which are culturally different or expectation-wise different or practice different that you go, wow, okay, that's not what I expected. Do you remember any things that you noticed at the time, like, oh, that's surprising?
The first thing probably was the English, because no one was talking English.
Probably better today, though.
Better, still not
perfect. Yeah.
Not perfect. After, when you are in an organization with a lot of retail, it's definitely people are more speaking Japanese, less maybe foreign languages. Yeah. I would say language was the first one.
I'm thinking particularly working inside the company around how things worked, how people thought about things, how they organized things, that type of thing that would maybe different to what you do in a different country.
It was really, at that time, it was really process driven. The image you have of Japanese company.
Manual.
A lot of things were also on paper at that time. So it was quite slow. People were not taking any decision. Really the stereotypes you have about Japan, it was a lot like that, because at the time I joined, it was just taking over from the agent who used to run the business. Okay. It was the first year. So still it was quite very slow. And the brand TAG Heuer, when you think about it, it was the year 2000, it was very dynamic in Europe. It was at the head of a lot of sports events and very, very strong. And in Japan was, boom, okay, we go to another level, very slow. And this surprises me the most, I would say. And still, when you think about the distribution in Japan, still a lot of things are very hierarchical. In department store, there's still this kind of culture, which is changing gradually, but it takes even more time than the rest.
Yeah, I think that you're right, that conservatism, very difficult to have innovation in that situation. That's why you see, was it right about the same time, at the sort of getting the 2000s, I think, a lot of brands got rid of the distribution agencies and took it back so they could own the brand, they could control the image, they could control the storytelling, and also the team, and have them become their team. So yeah, before it was basically outsourced, and then basically I don't think too many people do any outsourcing anymore. It's all brought inside. Yeah, so thinking back to someone who's being sent here, what do you think would be some things that might surprise them? And they might think, well, that's a bit odd, but actually they don't understand why it's different.
Yeah. Let me think about it. I think, again, based on my experience, it's mostly about the quickness of, mostly on the distribution side, on the way things are moving in terms of network, in terms of how the shopping experience is still a little different than what you get in other countries.
In what way?
I think one of the things that people might be surprised is the digitalization. When you look today in shops, it's a lot brick and mortar. And in Japan, when you look at e-commerce business, especially for luxury, it's one of the slowest countries in the world. It's always been the challenge from my head office saying that why you don't sell e-commerce, First, we're not cheap, of course, and people don't spend that much money just going on internet. But even compared to other countries, there's still a sense here that going to a boutique is important. Seeing the product, brick and mortar. And you see boutiques, Tiffany just opened a huge tower 1 block from here. So Japan is still very important about this experience, the physical experience. When during COVID, there was, okay, we digitalize everything, and then the future will be digital. Japan is back the other way. It's brick and mortar is important. And I think
that's also the human element, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, if I've got a, $100,000 piece of jewelry, I want to go to the store, do I really want to have Amazon deliver that for me or something, have some delivery company, okay, your jewelry's here. I think that's also that Japanese credibility, trust in the person that's telling them about the item and that they can believe it and they know that they're going to be taken care of. They want that. And I think also, if you've got that sort of money, you want to be treated well, you want to be made to feel like, you're a very important client. You're doing it online, it's hard to feel that, I think.
No, I agree.
It's more transactional, I suppose.
No, exactly. And I think Japan is still good because of that. Also, generation-wise, I mean, one of the things also that is, for me, that would surprise someone when you are in luxury is the age that you have in Japan for luxury client versus the other countries. Where wealth is distributed really towards the higher generation in Japan for historical reasons. And so a lot of the clients are more in their 40s, 50s, 60s when you compare to China where they are 10, 20 years younger. And I think Japan is an issue long-term because people are getting older. But it also, maybe going to brick and mortar, is also this generation of people, they like the contact, they like the human touch. I have a lot of very loyal clients who have been with the brand for 15, 20 years, and they still come to the boutique even if they don't buy, because you have this relationship. They want to be with the staff they know, they want to talk with them. So I think it's quite also different from what you see in other countries.
That's true. So again, anything else, any other advice? Like, for example, you spend time on the floor, you're having breakfast, you're having lunches, you're going golfing, you're going, traveling with the team, etc. For someone who's new to Japan, how can they start to create some bonds and trust and a relationship with the team locally?
I think it's to give opportunity for the staff to know you and to have exchange with you. And I think, as you said, often it's very, in the organization, you have the boss at the top and the people below, and they don't see that they can interact with you. And I think interacting, just giving them the opportunities to interact with you, it's already your first step. And then you can build from there. Of course, doesn't mean everyone will be willing and will be very keen on sharing with you, but give them this opportunity. When I arrived, the first time I did 45 minutes one-to-one with every single staff, just to know where they come from, what's their background, what's my background also, to explain to them. So it allowed me to have already a first exchange. And I think it's important, rather than coming and just talking to your direct report and just forgetting the rest. But doing it with everyone allows to create this first bond. And after, from there, you see with whom maybe you will have stronger bond, maybe with some less, but you can start building something.
One thing also for senior leaders, I think, is that we work through direct reports. And sometimes we imagine that what we're saying is actually filtering down. But in bigger organizations, often there's that middle manager group who I characterize as, on the top is this massive big sponge to get all the information from above. And underneath is this massive concrete slab, which nothing penetrates through that. And the people at the bottom don't ever get the message from the top. But the people sitting in the top think, well, it's going right to the bottom. They know. But often they don't know. So what would be some advice to make sure that the messaging is getting right to the people at the bottom as well?
And I think there's another way. It's from the bottom to the top, and it's the same filter.
Same problem, isn't it? Yeah.
Exactly. You don't get what the field is saying because it's filtered. Again, you can have very specific things, like an employee survey is a good way to know what the people that you don't talk to directly give their feedback. We go back to the engagement. Are they engaged or not? That's another point. But it's to ask them, to have at one point an opportunity to see those people and ask them, what do you think about that? And if they tell you, no, I've never heard about that. Okay, you never heard about that? Okay, let me ask someone else. And then you realize that the message has not gone through. But it's by asking them. And again, not by email or not doing a big, it's going and one-to-one, asking them what they think about a specific topic that you want to test.
It's always, for me, it's always surprising that you find out things by accident and you go, oh my God, are we still doing that? Or we're not doing that? Or we did that? It's like, what? But you had no idea because you're sort of floating up here somewhere and things are happening down here that you're not even aware of, right? Which you probably don't like in a lot of cases. But anyway, that's how it goes. In terms of thinking about your definition of leadership, how would you define leadership?
I think leadership is maximizing the potential of every individual and raise their skills. Because if you do that, meaning you're doing that for your brand. Because if you maximize everything, and I have a positive mindset in the sense, I believe everyone has a good side and has potential. Sometimes you don't see it, sometimes they don't show it, but everybody is good at something. Sometimes, and you have to find it, and maybe you don't find it, or people don't want to show it, and then it's lost. But if you can maximize the potential of every individual you have in your organization, then you're very successful. And it's always, you should never be afraid of having people better than you, because there's always a say that if you hire someone and you tell him what to do, then that's not the point of hiring someone from outside. They have to bring you new ideas. So you have to accept that you don't know everything, that you're not the best, and that you go with people and you take the best out of them. And I think leadership is that, is realizing this potential and developing the skills of the people. I'm always happy when someone from my team leaves and get a better job. Meaning that, okay, I've done something good because the guy has progressed in his career and he can do something better. Of course, I'm always sad because people are leaving, but if they get something better, it's good for them.
And I guess if you've got, for a lot of organizations, you've got people in an office, easy to train them.
Yeah.
But if you've got a dispersed network like you have of people standing up, 8-9 hours a day in a boutique, you talk about developing people, and 70% of the organization standing up every day in a boutique somewhere, dealing with the clients. Very hard to train people in that situation. So any advice for people who are, in that similar situation where people are a captive audience, okay, you lot into the room here, we're going to do some training. They're actually very hard to train. How do you get around that here?
You go it on the field. You do it during the day. There are several steps in the life of a boutique during the day. You have the chalet in the morning. So in the morning, you can already take this time to do 5-10 minutes. Role play is very important in retail because that's where you get to know how to react versus a client. We always say in Piaget, the most important thing is not the product, it's the client. Because that's the client story which will make us create the link with the client. So in the morning, when you have the 10-15 minutes chalet, that you can do a role play. In the afternoon, there's always some breaks, or sometimes that's where we have some cards. When you have, for example, this profile of clients, how do you want to treat him? What would you say when he enters? And that's how we try to build it, because that's the best way. That's where you're on the field, that it's working. In my previous company, they had coach. It was much bigger boutique, but you had coaches that were on the second floor that were listening to what the staff was saying to the client. So they could directly understand and
if they're on
interact.
The second floor, how are they hearing what's going on?
They had the mic. The staff had the mic and they had the small earphone. Right. And then that's, for me, also a very good way because you cannot always be next to the staff when he talks to the client, but to be a little further. And I think that's very interesting because you really can see what was the reaction, what was the thing that the staff said. So
probably
you have to find those.
Plug that into AI now, and AI will give you a nice feedback on how you went talking to that client, and here's some suggestions for what you're going to do.
But I'm not sure it would work because still, when you have a client, when a client enters, you don't know the client, the way he's dressed, especially for luxury, the way he's dressed, the way where he comes from. It's not because he's wearing a suit that he has a lot of money. So you have a lot of things. I'm not sure AI would be able to
determine that. Yeah. That's interesting.
Which I'm happy because I still need my teams and I don't want to have AI.
In terms of thinking about yourself, you have probably developed some positive habits for yourself over the years. You've been working a long time, different countries, different businesses. Any particular habits you've developed for yourself which you found very effective to help you in your work?
One, and that's what I did to prepare also for today, is I write down everything. And it allows me to think, to be prepared. For instance, when I do speeches in Japanese in front of clients, I wrote all my speech in English. My assistant translated it, write it in Romanji, but in phonetics. So it's Japanese written in Romanji. So it allows me to be effective when I do my speech because like this, I speak correct Japanese because if I have to get inspiration and talk without notes, probably my Japanese will be a little broken, and that doesn't look good. So preparing is something I've learned in my job that is necessary all the time. Preparing and writing down everything. It takes time, but for me, it's the best way I have to really be effective.
And any other particular, are you getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning and doing a cold bath or something to sharpen up for the day, or doing yoga, or any other particular habits you've found are very effective to get a lot of work done?
Waking up early is definitely one. I wake up at 6 every morning. So yes, definitely it's one. Also during the day, to have at one point a break, to go out, to do something else. 15, 20 minutes, it helps a lot also. Often when I work on a project, sometimes your head's on it and you're working, and then you put it aside for 1 or 2 days, and then you go back to it, and then that's how you realize, okay, that doesn't make any sense. So that's also important. One thing also I've learned is mirrors. Mirrors are very good help when you want to speak, and often I have to speak, so rehearsal in front of a mirror is also something very that I don't do it regularly, but every time I have to speak, that's also something I do.
Okay, very good. Yeah, I don't know if you've ever discovered this yourself, but if ever you're traveling to give a talk and you want to practice in a hotel room, when you turn the lights out, the windows become mirrors.
Yeah.
And when I was traveling to give talks, I would be giving my speech to this imaginary audience who are not there, but I'm gesturing and looking and involving and engaging, but looking at myself in the hotel window as a mirror is quite effective. In terms of the other way around, say, we have tough times in business, and it's not all, nice 45-degree angle up all the time. What things have you found to help yourself be resilient and to deal with hard times or, tough times? What's worked for you?
What works for me, I don't know if it's natural or not, capacity that the next day I forget the bad things of the previous day. So
nice.
When I wake up in the morning, it's like clean sheet. Okay, I'm positive, and that helps a lot going through tough times.
How do you do that? How do you sort of wipe it up?
The night for me breaks it, and it's like, okay, next day I wake up, okay, and I think about why there were those negative points, and I turn them on and turn them the other way. Okay, this was negative because of that, and I go back to the source in my mind, and then okay, so let's make it positive, and I go back down. And it helps a lot when it's tough time. I went through quite a lot of tough times in the past 8 years. You had COVID, a lot of things where you had to take at one point very tough decisions.
Very tough, yeah.
Exactly. So I'm always thinking, okay, what's the positive out of this? I mean, the negative now and 100% negative. Okay, let's go back one step. Okay, let's make it positive. Let's go back down. What I will get out of this. And it helps me a lot. Because when you're really in the negative, you don't see anything else.
That's true. It's spiraling down, isn't it? Everything's getting worse and worse and worse.
And you don't see any way out. So if you have to stop it at one point and go back up, and okay, let's. And after, at the end, it's not a matter of life and death. There's things that are more important. So also to put it in perspective, I have a family, you have a family. There are things that are more important in life. Sometimes when you realize this is a big problem in my company, okay, but if you put it in perspective, I don't say it's a small problem, but okay, we'll find a solution.
Yeah, we work through it. Well, Alexis, thank you. It's been an excellent discussion with you. And please join us again for our next episode of Japan's top business interviews.